Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a very belated edition of Fresh Red Kills. So it's been a few weeks since I had last posted a video, including a Fresh Red Kills episode, where I just talk about the books that I have recently read. I am behind on these, so I'm playing catch up today. I've talked about in the last couple of videos. Just been very, very busy with life, and I finally have an opportunity where I'm actually alone in the house. My kids aren't home. My wife's not home. I have a little bit of time. I'm going to try and make a couple videos here and catch up on some discussions of books that I wanted to get to. So what I'm actually going to be discussing today are books that I had read last month in May that I didn't get a chance to talk about yet. And the two I'm going to read relate to Horror Mayhem, a booktube event in which people were encouraged to read short horror fiction. I had read a little novella at the beginning of May, and then throughout the month I was reading Night Shift. So this is the first book I'm going to talk about. The second book I'm going to talk about is nonfiction, and that will be this one, Sleeping with the Lights On. So Stephen King's Night Shift. Obviously Stephen King needs no introduction. This was his first short story collection, published in 1978. Almost all these stories have been published previously in magazines throughout mostly the 70s, especially Cavalier magazine. And I, of course, because I am, a horror cinema buff, I knew a lot of these stories already, although there are some that bear names with films that have nothing to do with those films, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by those works. So, I am a horror fan, although I don't consider myself well-read in horror literature. It is something that I am remedying as I continue my reading journey. But I have read several Stephen King books. His previous publications, before this, there was Carrie, there was Salem's Lot, and I have read those. And this was really next to my list, along with The Stand, which of course does not qualify as short horror fiction. And this was a very good collection, I have to say. I really enjoyed this one. Quite a few in here. This edition that I'm holding here is, this was, let me see, this is from 1978. Just trying to see. Doubleday and Company. This might be a book club edition. Just trying to see here. Actually, I don't see it on there. But anyhow, reading some of the original, or from an original book. And this was a really, really solid collection. I enjoyed this quite a bit. I'm just trying to look at the table of contents here, just so I can jog my memory, because like I said, it's been about a month since I had read these. Yeah, we've got Jerusalem's Lot, which he gives us a prequel to Salem's Lot, and he's writing in kind of an older, more 19th century Gothic style, which I think he actually pulls off pretty well. I really enjoyed that one. You got Graveyard Shift about rats and possibly a giant bat, I think. A main character who makes some questionable choices. We've got Night Surf, which I believe takes place in the universe of The Stand. So it's after a terrible disease has wiped out humanity. I Am the Doorway, a little bit of cosmic horror, which was okay, I think fairly predictable. The Mangler, which was absolutely ridiculous, but in a good way. I mean, that's a goofy, fun sort of story. A demonically possessed laundry machine, basically eating people. Fun stuff. The Boogeyman I really liked. I thought that was a really solid horror story. A father recounting how the Boogeyman has killed each of his children, and how he was helpless to stop them. But King does a very interesting thing with that character, where you realize just how kind of messed up and abusive this individual is who's narrating, who's telling us this story. And I think it's not entirely clear exactly how some of these kids died. I think it's left a little bit open to interpretation. Gray Matter, I think turning into like a slime creature, while he sits in his chair. That was kind of fun. Battleground, guy basically fighting killer toys. Great little ending to that. Trucks, which of course, when Stephen King did his directorial debut, he filmed this. Of all the stories in this collection, I'm surprised that's the one that he chose. But about trucks that, and other vehicles that come to life and start killing people. It's fun in its own way. Definitely not the strongest story in here, and didn't make for a particularly strong film, although it is kind of campy fun. I do enjoy watching that film, but not because it's good. Sometimes They Come Back. That one was really good. A teacher whose brother had been basically killed by some greasers back in the 50s, and his current students start disappearing, and they start being replaced by those individuals who killed his brother. Like they're back from the 1950s, and that was a really good one. Strawberry Spring. He's got a couple in here that are really about like serial killers, men preying on women, and those are, I think, the weakest in this collection. It's a theme that he returns to a few times in this collection. Those are the only ones that I'm not just they don't do much for me. The Ledge, really good. Well, I say really, it's good. It's not as good as some of the other ones, but it's a solid story. Kind of a guy trying to not meet his death by walking along the ledge of a building. The Lawnmower Man bears no resemblance really whatsoever to the film that bore that name. They really just took the name of the film, took the name from this story and slapped it onto that film. This one is another one that's just goofy fun, like a pagan deity who's mowing lawns but and eating the grass and making sacrifices. It's fun. Quitters Inc. That was really good. That was a very good story. A man who signs up to quit smoking, and the business takes that mission very seriously. I Know What You Need. I think that's another one that it had to do with voodoo dolls, and it didn't do much for me. Children of the Corn, made into a pretty mediocre film. The film isn't great, although I think it has some really good moments. The beginning of Children of the Corn, especially, I think, is pretty good when we see the husband and wife driving, and they strike the boy on the road. That's the kind of film that, as an adult, it's ridiculous, and you can't get over the logical inconsistencies, but I think it actually works pretty effectively for a young person. I think that, young horror fans who are ready for just a little bit more violence, a little bit more gore, because there's not much in that film at all. It's pretty tame, actually. But if they're ready for that, I think it's actually a good one for younger horror fans. Good lesson, too, on religious extremism. But this story, it's only a part of what they ended up filming, and the couple are very different. The couple inside the movie, you really kind of get behind their relationship. In this one, their marriage is falling apart. That's one of the reasons they don't do terribly well against these kids inside this story. I know they did try to remake that film, I think maybe for the Sci-Fi Channel some years back, and they stuck closer to the story with the couple bickering the whole time, and I couldn't stand it. I haven't been able to finish that version of the film just because I hate that couple so much. So luckily, I didn't really like the couple in this one either, but it was a short story. And I actually really like the story. Last Rung on the Ladder, that title ends up taking on some different significance throughout the story. And a lot about, regret, kind of wishing that you had made time for people when you had the chance. The Man Who Loved Flowers was another serial killer one. It was okay. One for the Road. That's another one that takes place inside the Salem's Lot universe, and that was very good. That was really good, but it takes place after Salem's Lot, the book, whereas Jerusalem's Lot took place before it. And The Woman in the Room, a really good one about the indignities of dying in a hospital and dealing with somebody who you love who is dying, and the character comes to a certain decision, and it's unclear whether or not it's his mother who's dying in the room. She's the woman in the room. It's unclear exactly how aware of or how consenting she is of the decision that he comes to. And I thought that was very, very good. It felt raw, that one. And yeah, that's the overall collection. And like I said, really good. I am interested to see how Stephen King, his writing continues. I've read some later stuff from him, but not extensively. I've read It. I've read Pet Sematary, but that was a really long time ago. And I'm interested to, when I finally get to his other short story collections, if I'll notice a difference in his writing style. Because this definitely feels like some of the really good writing from the mid-20th century short stories. I know he was a big Matheson fan. I can definitely kind of feel a little bit of that in here, certainly. Maybe a little bit with, maybe not as much with Bradbury, but definitely Matheson. But yeah, I was very, very happy with this. And the other thing that I read for Horror Mayhem, it's actually not the last thing, but I'll make a different video on the other horror thing that I read. And that is this short little work of nonfiction by Darryl Jones, Sleeping with the Lights On, The Unsettling Story of Horror. And it's got one of these cutout covers. Nice little image there, the light bulb shape. This is from Oxford University Press, and it's kind of a primer into horror. Not necessarily horror cinema or horror literature, but really horror as a genre. And what I liked about this was it concentrates really about how horror functions within our society. What purpose does it serve? He gets into theory and history, precedent, tracing certain elements in horror through the ages, and relating it back really to what it says about us. And that's really the kind of way that I like to approach horror. I have little patience sometimes when people get to, or analysts get to Freudian on us. This is very well reasoned analysis of horror that is based on some tangible evidence and precedent. It's not filled with theories that really can't be supported. And I was quite impressed by this. Oh, there's my dog barking. I often will find factual errors in these sorts of things. I only found one tiny one. One real tiny one. He mentions that Lon Chaney had played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which he had not. I think he must have been thinking of the John Barrymore film. That's it, though. Everything else seemed really solid. So those of you who might be interested in learning more about horror theory and want just a very quick primer, like I said, this is a short book, and it's actually, the pages are kind of laminated. Some pages have full illustrations in them. So this is a very, very quick read. One of the reasons I chose it for Horror Mayhem, it was all about short horror. So I had horror fiction, and I figured short horror nonfiction as well. And I like this. So both of these books I would actually highly recommend. So we've got, once again, Night Shift by Stephen King, and Sleeping with the Lights On by Darryl Jones. As always, thank you, BookTube.